Before you start to design a user interface, you should understand the basic UI components. I will now discuss the UI building blocks and principles for building good UI and UX. Your product design rides on the collective memory of every application that the user has ever used throughout the course of their life. So they will be looking for controls and functions in specific locations on the user interface. Use standard UI components. Keep interface design consistency. Maintain user interface affordance. Keep it simple. Remember errors and explanations. Help the user learn. Ensure interactive product flow. When discussing the topic of user interface design and user experience, everyone with a pair of eyes thinks of themselves as an expert, so be careful. I will now demonstrate the common screen and page layouts. Containers. A container is the most basic layout element. A container is a UI element designed to display a page component to the maximum width of a user's screen. Containers include other UI components. Certain elements should be collapsible to maximize the interface real estate. You should always consider multiple screen sizes and screen types when you design your product UI. UI components. You can use UI components any way you like, but there are some expected design standards that you should follow. Tables. The table is the first and most basic of all UI components. Tables are one of the main building blocks for all UI design. Tables are used in two main ways: as an exposed table element to the user's UI, and as a construction frame by the developer. Input controls. Input controls enable the user to input data into the application. Text input fields allow users to enter text. The checkbox allows the user to select multiple items. It is usually best to use checkboxes in a vertical list. Radio buttons are used when the user needs to select one item from the available options. The drop menu list control allows users to select one item at a time from a list. Great for when you need to save space in the UI. Add clear user instructions to the control. The list box allows users to select multiple items at the same time. A great compact control that can support long lists of options if necessary. A button indicates to the user a touch action, and it is usually labeled, applying different colors and shades to show different states of the button. The dual-purpose button provides multiple user interactions. It's great for tight spaces. The toggle switch allows the user to change a setting between two states. Great for touchscreens. A date picker allows users to select a time or a date. Navigation components. Navigation components allow the user to move between screens on an application interface. The search box allows users to enter a keyword and search an index. Search fields are usually single-line text boxes and often come with a search button. Breadcrumbs allow users to identify their current location within a system, and they expose clickable trails of pages. Pagination divides content between pages. These control allow the UI designer to display small packets of data in a single browser view, which reduces UI latency. A slider, also known as a trackbar, allows users to adjust a value, zooming in and out on a map, for example. Tags allow users to create saved content tags for searching. These tags and chip kits are often third-party plugins. Symbol fonts are now being used to replace big raster images for vector images in your HTML browser. Use a simple font for all your application interface needs. Your HTML packet size will now be smaller and reduce latency. A symbol font also makes localizing your interface easier. Remember Henry Dreyfuss from the 1950s? All modern apps utilize his symbol conventions for their buttons. An image carousel allows the user to browse through a set of items without leaving the screen context. Information components provide applications with a means of communicating with the user. Status icons provide the user with information about the current status of a UI object. A tooltip allows the user to see hints when they hover over an item indicating the name or purpose of that item. A progress bar is a time-relative control that indicates to the user the amount of time a specific task should take. These controls are usually not time-accurate. Labels and notification. A notification is an update message that shows something new to the user. used for successful completion of tasks, as well as errors and warning messages. Labeling and descriptions. There is no better place to help the user understand the UI than right there when they're looking at it. Always try to instruct the user what they are looking at and what they can do. A pop-up dialog is a graphical control element, and it is subordinate to the application's main view. A pop-up dialog requires the user to interact with it before they can return to the application's main interface. An accordion is a vertically stacked list that utilizes show and hide functionality. Third-party UI components. A great way to improve your UI is by utilizing third-party UI component libraries. There are many UI component libraries available on the market today. They look amazing and also have another very important benefit. They have been thoroughly pre-tested on all browsers, screen types, and resolutions. They are great, good quality, and a great starting point for any project. They can also add some extra spice and sophistication to your interface design. UI component positioning and style. A UI component state communicates the status of a UI element to the user. Maintain visual consistency for all your UI elements. Each element should have clear affordance. Choosing the right colors for your project is very important, as it sets the tone for your product. Follow the company branding colors and use them to affect the message you wish to create. Today's UI designs rely heavily on motion design techniques. Animations, CSS visual effects, and screen transitions have a huge impact on the user and their interaction with the screen or the product. The UI must support cross-platform and multiple browser types. Today's customers demand freedom and flexibility when interacting with the product experience and user journey, switching between mobile devices and laptops for the same application. Many UI elements have fixed and stretch-to-width configurations. These are industry-standard configurations. I have marked the important ones in red. Collapsing elements are especially good for smaller screen sizes and multiple resolution support. Each dialog and its components contain exact border spacing, component spacing, and position layout standards. These standards are rules that the UI design must comply with. There are many variable factors that determine the layout and framework design rules. These rules are often referred to as artistic when they are really based on screen resolution technologies, compliance requirements, and international standards. Remember this: the layout and positioning principles for an object are the same for a browser as they are for the printed page. Hence, the terminology has remained the same. Without learning where these terms come from, a lot of information is lost. For the designer and the developer, these understandings are critical. The UI style guide is the interface design palette for your application. They enable the UI designer to create a cohesive product user interface and user experience. How to start the design process. The best way to design a great application is to follow a set of steps that help you focus. First, you must understand the problem. What problem does the product solve? Which stress points must be addressed? Where are the core functionalities in the user flow? And how can the solution be most effectively be implemented? Now write up a product brief. Start by writing your brief as single-sentence statements. Select the main functions for an end-to-end flow and then create pixel-accurate mockups. Write up the relevant user stories and keep the design to be the shortest path between 2 points. Create a light prototype for the user flow and expose it to the customer. Implement customer feedback in the prototype where necessary and perform the cycle again until satisfied. Finally, test your application and send it back for fixes until it's bugless.